the Advisory Council. Happy Juneteenth to one and all. And we are going to call this June 19th MAC meeting to order. Our first item of business will be to introduce first members of the Mobility Advisory Council, then staff members, and then members of the public. So we'll start in the room, and we'll go with me and then to my left. So as I said, I'm Jeff Tom, and I am the chair, and I represent the ACB Capital Chapter, California Council of the Blind.
Charles Johnson, Vice Chair of the MAC and Member at Large representing the elderly.
Hi, this is Doris Hernandez Morales. I'm a member on Zoom.
Hi, this is Helen O'Connell, and I am the TCMP chair.
Is Melissa there?
Hi, I am Melissa Backrack, and I am the vice chair of TMC. Also, want to let people know I can't hear the panelists that are in the room.
Okay, let's see if we can get the volume up a little bit for Melissa and others. Pam, are you on as well?
Is she having trouble?
Pam, you need to unmute.
She might be having technical difficulties.
Maybe she can't hear us either.
Does she hear you, Austin?
Pam, can you hear us?
She is there. There's just some sort of technical difficulty.
Okay. All right, so we're done with the members. We do have a quorum, and we'll announce others if others come on. And now we'll go to staff first in the room. Priscilla, you want to?
Sure. Priscilla Vargas, staff liaison to the MAC and ADA compliance officer.
Holly Martinez, customer satisfaction supervisor.
Good afternoon, Jamie Poole-Canterbury, Director of Customer Satisfaction here, SACRT.
Austin Greiner, Accessible Services Administrative Assistant.
Hey, good afternoon. James Drake, Senior Manager of Service Planning for SACRT.
Alberta Deanda, SACRT Go Superintendent.
Charity.
I couldn't hear
All right, there we go.
Charity.
Charity Oakley, Director of Bus Operations.
Janetta Burnett, Director, Light Rail Operations.
Blanca Araujo, VP Operations.
Vince Beatty, AVP of Operations.
I'm George Kirbyson, Director of Light Rail Maintenance.
Rowan Bryant, Assistant Planner.
All right. How about members of the public? We'll get mics around to you. Oh, Zoom. Do we have anybody on Zoom for staff first? Okay, then we'll do members of the public now for introductions.
Jeff Tartagia, an advocate, transit ambassador, and looking forward to what we hear.
Jackie Tatro.
Leslie Tom, American Council of the Blind, Sacramento chapter.
I'm Patricia Nielsen. I'm a long-term frequent
rider of SAC RT Go, and I would like to speak today about some issues I'm having with my rides.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Allison, Sacramento Transit Advocates and Riders.
He knows everything I say shit.
All right, thank you. So our next item will be item 3, which is approval of minutes. So we now have the May 16th, 2025 minutes for approval.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Yes.
Guest on Zoom, Margie
Oh, sorry.
Donovan.
I apologize. Thank you, Margie.
Folsom representative.
Okay, any other Zoom members of the public?
Regina Brink, ACB Capital Chapter.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so we'll now go to item 3, which is approval of the May 16th minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion, Helen O'Connell.
Okay, Helen and Charles seconds. Is there any discussion, amendments, deletions, etc.? MAC members on the minutes? Anybody in the Zoom MAC members on the minutes? Have we tried to send a message to Pam to make sure she can unmute so that I want to make sure she's really with us as opposed to, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the May 16th minutes say aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're done. Okay, so our next item is public comment. This is public comment on items not on the agenda. And of course, on the agenda would be both, for example, the S700 issues and SAC RT Go. So you can wait on those issues. We'll definitely have time for everyone to talk about their issues as we go through them. But for items not on the agenda, anyone, first we'll go Zoom this time. Any raised hands?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, it's my stupid audio again. I can see you. I can hear you. I am here.
All right. We are glad of that.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Pam is here. Pam is in the house, so to speak. Okay, so do we have any raised hands on Zoom for members of the public for public comment on items not on the agenda?
No hands.
Okay, anyone in the room? Okay. Okay, so Patricia, remember it's items not on the agenda, so SAC RT Go is on our agenda.
SAC RT Go, so maybe this isn't the appropriate time.
Yeah.
I have 4 issues, but they all concern SAC RT Go.
Okay, we'll definitely give you.
So you'll come back to me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jeff.
And Jeff, go ahead.
I'll try this one. Jeff Tardigia, an advocate. Want to thank you for the completeness that is what is in this, should we say, printed documents here, including finding out about the other committee training and the other things in here. I am puzzled, board, how you are going to address the draft document in here that you've included, but that is on your agenda. So presume you have some procedure. But I also want to thank for Monday when I met with various RT representatives to go through the low floor vehicle and seeing some of the difficulties for an electric wheelchair and usage through there. And I want to thank staff for that helpful detail in seeing. And yes, in August, we will try to bring blind and other individuals together at Sac Valley Station so they can show some of the difficulties that occur in trying to get into the low floor vehicle. outside of that, we'll say is understood you had a very interesting Saturday, and hopefully events in the future will be able to be accommodated better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Anyone else? Members of the public on items not on the agenda? Okay, so the chair's report. The chair's report will be pretty quick today.
I'm sorry, are we on items not on the agenda?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
Oh, no, we are. Okay, so you do not have an item not on the agenda.
No, I do
correct?
not at
Okay.
this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hand now lowered.
All right. So the chair's report, I'm going to give a shout out to James Drake and his group. I've and others may want to comment on this as well, but I've been involved in a couple of meetings, one over Zoom and excuse me, one in person, following up on the comprehensive operational analysis that was discussed at our last meeting. Seems to be a pretty good process. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding, but the process does seem to really want to allow community leaders and members of the public to interactively participate in the sort of, dialogue that will lead to the best decisions being made in terms of how to undertake whatever changes have to occur to deal with limited resources. And so I think the process so far has seemed positive to me, although we're in the early stages, but I would that's my basic comment. They really do seem to want to get as much input in a variety of ways as possible, including last time sort of an interactive game with community members to see what their priorities sort of were. So any other, I'm not really, this is just a reporting item, informational only. So any other MAC members that want to comment on this item? Go ahead.
Jeff, I want to second your comments about the comprehensive operational analysis. And I too have been involved in a separate meeting, a couple of those, and one on Zoom. And I agree that I think RT is doing a great job reaching out to members of the public and various government agencies and so on and so forth to try to make this, get as much input as they can around the entire community.
Thank you. Anybody else, including Zoom, one of members of the council, want to comment on this?
Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Oh, good. I thought it was an excellent presentation. I learned so much, and I am so impressed with how visionary and forward-looking the department is. We're going to be ready for what comes up. Thank you.
Okay. Any member of the public want to basically comment on what we've just been talking about? Jeff, go ahead.
Yes, having attended the physical one here where there were 40 people and hearing the other likewise good-sized group, my only comment to you is regarding the lovely little breakdown of 1 to 35. What is in $1 or $2 of it will take to do on the game versus the 35? Henry was great on that, first explaining what a half-cent text would mean and what else was going on there. But lovely numbers, just what is involved for upgrading security and the other aspects. It's a lovely game, but what is the details in there? I'm in the weeds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else from the public?
Margie?
Marge, go ahead.
I'm not sure what meeting you're talking about. Can you tell me what meeting you're talking about and where it was announced, please?
Yeah, one was announced fairly publicly and one was limited. The comprehensive operational analysis, I don't know if you heard that part of our last meeting. As I recall, you were here for part of it, and on Zoom, I mean, but you were here for part of it, but not all of it. But it's a short-term and long-term plans that are being developed to address the issues that SAC-RT faces due to having, insufficient resources to do everything they want to do, basically. And so they're taking all sorts of input. I know the one meeting I went to was announced publicly, but I don't know how broad their list is, so I can't really comment on that. But they are trying to include the public in these meetings, so.
I don't remember being at such a meeting, but I also don't remember getting a notice. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. All right, so.
Rick Hodgkins here. I actually support the half-cent sales tax. I voted for it twice on two separate elections. Doesn't matter what elections, but I do support it. And to this committee, to this council, I would say something I've said to the board of directors at large, and that is, from what I heard, no member of the public wants to do anything to help RT unless the homeless issue was addressed first. Now, I know that the homeless issue is outside of this council's jurisdiction, but I must stress that the voting public, people, particularly those who are choice riders, don't want to give a penny to RT unless something is done about the safety and cleanliness of, dealing with the homeless first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, we will now go on.
Hi.
Oh, one more, okay.
Hi,
Here.
this is Helen. I support the half-cent increase. However, I would like the language to be that it would be for local transportation, not Caltrans, not, the whole state, not for El Dorado County, but Sacramento, so that it won't be used and it will be designated for local things like buses and putting things in place. I think that's what the issue is with most of the sales tax increases. We get the half-cent, but then we only get an eighth or less because it's going to all those other pots. That's my comment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And James Drake wants to say.
James, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. James Drake here from Planning. For Margie's question, there are two kind of parallel programs going on right now. First is the comprehensive operational analysis out of Planning, and the second is the Transit Idea Exchange, which is being run out of Community Relations Department. And so the latter of those is a little more focused on public opinion, public preferences. The COA is a little more on design and planning, but they're very interrelated. The first of those Transit Idea Exchange meetings was Wednesday, May 28th. And I'll give you in a moment where you can find the future dates. We had, for the comprehensive operational analysis, a webinar on Wednesday, June 4th. And then we had the second of those Transit Idea Exchanges earlier this week on Monday, the 16th in Carmichael. The next one of those will be Wednesday, June 25th, and that'll be in South Sacramento at the Bonnie Pennell Center. And as for future meetings on the comprehensive operational analysis, we're done with our first round, but we're looking at scheduling a next round in July and probably a little bit into August, but those haven't been announced just yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and
and you want to give us
find information on that. I'm sorry. like I said, COA doesn't have any scheduled upcoming meetings, but information on the project, including video of the last, or a recording of the last webinar, can be found at sacrt.com/COA. And those transit idea exchange workshops, information including the schedule and location for those in-person meetings, can be found at sacrt.com/transit workshops.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to old business. And
We have a couple of hands raised in the Zoom.
we do? Okay.
I just want to let people know that I still can't hear when the people are at the lectern.
Huh. She still can't hear, she says. We can
I
hear
am
you
hearing just
perfectly.
fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm hearing just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to raise my own volume then. My bad.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Appreciate it. Okay. There are a couple hands on this item.
Pam Floor,
Okay.
Jeff,
Yeah.
just real quick, I forgot to mention something as excellent as the presentation was, the creative time where we had to rank different priorities really brought home how hard it is not to do everything. And I was really surprised at how low on the list of priorities people voted for services to seniors and the disabled.
Okay, thank you for the comment. All right, do we have another hand? Austin, do we have?
No hands.
No hands. Okay, so we will now go on to item 6, which is the A700 post-launch update. And I'm not going to even attempt to guess who the staff members are that are going to talk about it, since there are several of them here, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm George Kirbyson, Director of Light Rail Maintenance, and I guess I'll be taking our update for today. One thing that has changed since our last meeting, we did roll out our latest announcement software version, which corrected the timing of the announcements. So now your announcement timing should be right on track where it should be before the train is actually making moves within the system. We verified that several weeks ago and pushed that out, and it is now fleet-wide. So you'll see that should be a good improvement for everyone. We are still working on the items that we discussed last meeting regarding the Amendment 11 changes that will be coming that'll have some significant changes that we'll share with everyone. And that'll be with regards to the ramp deployment. And it'll be a ramp hold or a door hold request that'll be made even when the train's in motion to allow the operator to know that there's a ramp being requested at the next stop. Train will come to a stop, and then the ramp will deploy and doors will open. And that's one of the major changes in addition to a couple of other changes that we're making on that Amendment 11, but that's the one that will directly affect the MAC community the most. Other than that, we're currently awaiting, we've got 2 cars being delivered this month. We've got cars 27 and 28 scheduled to be delivered in the next 2 weeks. And we're moving quickly through the commissioning process. We're in a steady state with our commissioning process now, so it's streamlining us, being able to get the cars ready for service. We've done a good job getting everything dialed in, so it's really speeding that process up for us, so we're not requiring as much time out there doing a burn-in. We're able to get through that process quickly and get the cars out into revenue. And then because obviously they're running with the limited fleet that we have, they're running pretty much every day, so we're doing well in our preventative maintenance cycles as well. Since the cars are seeing service daily, our inspection window is much shorter than it is for our legacy fleet because there's fewer of the vehicles available. So when you do see the vehicles not in service and replaced by CAF cars right now, that's largely the reason why is we're putting so many miles on the cars now that they're actually coming into inspection windows quicker than what our legacy fleet is. So as we add more vehicles, that will lengthen a little bit, and you'll see them in service more consistently. But we've got to deal with that regulatory requirement there. Oh, and then decals. We had one of the things that we discussed with Jeff Tartagia on Monday during our field trip. We've ordered new decals that will all have the language push to operate the doors, push to deploy the ramp or request the ramp, so that there's no conflicting language between press and push. They will all be push. And then he doesn't know he's getting the bill. Yeah, we got the bill. We'll be sending that to him pretty quickly. But no, actually, it was good input. And you know, the last thing we want to do is create confusion. We want to make sure that everybody understands how to operate. And then we're still working on getting some audio-visual materials put together that we'll definitely implement when we get this ramp change. The software has already been written for it. Once the amendment goes through our board meeting, which is coming up here in a few weeks, we'll make a presentation that we can do, as we discussed before, to videotape and narrate through that operation. And we'll share that with everyone so that they'll have the ability to see it prior to getting out there in the system and seeing it live. I think that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I open it up for questions, good update, George. I want to make, since he may not be here today, he may, but we may, in case this item is done before he is, for Jean Lozano, who is a MAC member and who is chair of the Access and Infrastructure Committee, I'm going to channel what he has mentioned to us, and that is that he intends to call a meeting of his subcommittee within the next couple of months. It hasn't been dated yet, calendared yet, to deal with the array of issues that are still outstanding with respect to the 700 trains and bring recommendations on those issues back to the full MAC. So that's where he is at this point in time. I'm not going to go into those issues myself today, although anybody is free to bring up anything that they want. So first, let's go MAC members on Zoom this time.
Helen?
Melissa? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Helen.
Nope, you're up.
I just thank you for the changes you're making on the ramp. I think that will be very, very helpful. I'm really excited to try it. The other is I want to thank the drivers who are, when they see me, they let the ramp down. I can reach the button, but a lot of people can't. And so it's really nice if they notice that I'm there for them to let the ramp down. But I do have a question. I noticed you mentioned something about those changes and about the changes to push to, or press to push. But I didn't hear anything about signage. Is there anything in the works to put the signage so that when we're on the lower trains, we can see it?
Yes. So we have been working with our marketing department to develop our graphic standards, is basically what we call it, that has a standardization across the fleet, so that each train mirrors each other. That there's not, there is a specific pattern on where decals will be located. And that's going to be part of the narration that I was talking about, Helen, is when we...
I'm sorry, I was talking about the signage at the stations so I can see what station we're at.
Gotcha.
This is actually Melissa. That's.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Your voice sounded like Helen's. That actually is, there is a separate project that I'm actually involved in. It's not part of ours. It's actually done in conjunction with our IT team, where there is some station messaging signs that are part of that project that are going to be upgraded to give more real-time data about train location through the system. We've actually just completed the package for that project, and it should be coming out in a request for proposals here in the next couple of weeks. It's going through a final review internally, and then that'll be going out.
was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
What I was saying is that when I'm on the low floor trains, I can't see the station identification signs. So I don't know what station I'm at all the time if it's nighttime.
Gotcha. So
That's
the
what I
internal
was
station
talking.
signs are too high for you?
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Ditto.
obviously we have the audio announcements that go in conjunction with that.
Yeah, I can hear those. I was just wondering if there was any
Yeah,
move
right
to
now there hasn't been discussion about relocating the signs. I know that there's been some discussions well into the future about some upgrades to the internal like infotainment, I guess is what you would call it, where we can push advertising and safety messaging and all that through a different display. It's very, very preliminary at this point, but there has not been any plans to change the location of the overhead signs. But I will definitely take note of that. And when our group convenes, I'll bring that up and see what options may be out there to find a location. As you know, the real estate in the LRV for putting signage at a lower level is limited because of the open spacing that we maintain to have the additional ADA capacity within the vehicles. But
Yeah.
definitely something we
I
can
I
look at.
wasn't sure what was available. I just wanted to bring it up. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Helen.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Melissa um really clarified which signs she's talking about. They're the ones that are on the poles in the station that give you the name of the station and which direction you're going. So when you're in the regular old cars, they are at a good height to be read. But if you're in the low floor cars, you can't see but a little piece.
Gotcha. Yeah. So again, that is something that is being discussed as a part of an upgrade project that we're doing to our digital messaging and real-time train announcement system. And obviously that when we get to the point of looking at installation, I will definitely take that into account when we have those discussions about placement to make sure that it is going to be compatible with people that are on low floor trains that might be height impaired for whatever reason, whether they're chair bound or otherwise not able to see it out of the low floor section of the car, so that we can look for locations in the station that will be more appropriate for that. So I'll
Yes,
definitely take notes of that and bring that up in that group.
thank you. I also had could you please reiterate? I've been trying to take notes, but everything's going a little fast. Amendment number 11 was for the ramp deployment switches being adjusted so that the people coming from inside to outside would have priority, correct?
Correct. So right now, the ramp has priority over the door operation, whether that be internal or external. That is a priority right now. The change that we're making is going to enhance that priority to create a hold on that operation, even when the train's in motion. Right now, that is only activated when the train is at 0 speed and the train doors have been accessed by the operator. The change is going to incorporate that. So even between stations, if a passenger presses one of the 3 buttons internally to request a ramp or operation, it's going to notify them through an audio-visual signal, but it's also going to notify the operator that a ramp has been requested at that next stop. So they're going to be looking for that ramp to deploy. Right now, it's about a 20-second process for that cycle to happen.
Right.
The doors will not clear until that ramp cycle has taken place. So one of the things that we've had reported frequently, or not frequently, but occasionally it happens, is in a station, somebody's requested a ramp after somebody has used the door option. And that is a priority, but it takes time for that cycle to happen because the doors have to force close, and then the ramp will deploy, and then the doors will reopen for the ramp passenger. And it's caused difficulties because if the operator has de-accessed the doors thinking everybody is on the train and they're ready to proceed, if the doors close, that cancels that operation and the train will go to the next station. So this
No.
is going to reduce
Yeah, I've missed
that
a lot of
from,
trains.
it's going to eliminate that from happening because it's going to require that that ramp go through a full cycle before it'll allow the operator to clear the doors to move. Does that make sense?
Yay, thank you for that.
Okay. So that is one of the things that's part of that change that we're making.
Thank you. Another aspect was the incline degree from the train to the platform. Is there anything in the works to have the ramp degree from the train to the platform lowered to at least 6? Because that seems to be a very precarious situation.
So there is plans for when we're no longer operating the high floor cars, the platforms will be raised again to a higher level to basically allow for level boarding. So it'll reduce that angle on the ramp.
Yeah.
But that is we're not capable of doing that yet until we get rid of the low floor cars because the doors on the high floor cars will make contact with the ramps or with the platforms if the platforms are raised now. So we have to get out of the legacy cars operating on the main line before we can make that change. But yes, there are plans for that to occur.
Okay, and give me a rough estimate of the timeline.
We're slated right now to be in operation on the blue line in 2027 with the S700 cars. We should have enough vehicles on site as well as having all the station modifications done to be running sometime in 2027.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay.
Pam has her hand raised.
Pam does? All right, go ahead, Pam.
Okay, she's
Pam must be
not there.
muted.
I'm sorry, that was an error.
Okay. Okay, let's go to members in the room. Doris, okay, go ahead. Why don't you get on the mic so that people can hear you? Thanks.
That actually in that, what they're not saying is what's the length it's going to be? If it's 2027 by then, but what's the level? Because it's so high.
Yeah, so it will basically, right now we have an 8-inch curb.
I know.
And it will raise it, I believe, to 14 inches to make a level
Wow,
board.
that's gonna be almost level.
That's what I want to find out, like how much.
Yeah, and honestly, that will virtually eliminate the need for the ramp because at that point, you'll literally be just bridging the gap between the side of the train and the platform.
Okay, so we're looking in 2027.
That's when we'll be running a full S700 fleet out there, and then that project will start.
Okay.
Should be able to start around that time.
So more 2028.
Yeah, yeah, because we're slated right now. We're estimating that we'll have everything done and in place by November of 2027 to have the S700 run on both lines, or all 3 lines, I should say. And then we can get that project started.
Okay, anyone else in the room? MAC members. Okay, so members of the public, now we'll start in the room. Yeah, go ahead.
2 things. First one I'm going to ask is when is the 9th and K station going to be compatible? Because as you know, after 7 o'clock, you have the gold line going to maintenance and you have issues through there. I got stuck with this last Saturday night because you couldn't have the signage telling you what was going on there. So I'm hoping, when is the 8th and K? That's the first question. And the second one be, when will be the audio signals be able so that people that are blind will understand what's happening with the door?
All right, good question. So I believe your first question is regarding the announcements, not the station being compatible, right? You're talking about the Gold Line pull-in trains saying Sac Valley rather than 8th and Capitol,
And,
because they become a blue line at that point to pull back to the Metro Yard.
and simply there is that when's that station going to be adapted so that your Gold Line trains right now, when they go to pull in, do go for maintenance, that you can do that. Otherwise, you're back at 13th Street right now, or AA to change over to the other train.
Okay, so I'll address the announcement side of it, because obviously that's my portion of it from the maintenance side. But we actually tested loading. To make it simple, we can add a virtual station in the communication system on the new trains to basically create a scenario where after 9 p.m., for instance, trains that would normally continue to Sac Valley will now, once they reach 8th and Capitol, transfer to the blue line to pull in for maintenance for the night. And we are testing adding a virtual station that we can implement to where that signage after that time frame will say 8th and Capitol bound train rather than a Sac Valley bound train, so that people aren't getting on the train expecting to go to Sac Valley to find out that the train actually is ending the Gold Line route at 8th and Capitol. We've done some testing, and it's because it actually piggybacks onto an existing route that we have, that we program into the train for the signal logic and all of that. It was creating some conflicts, and we're trying to work through those conflicts right now, because what was happening is the internal signs were being correct, but the external signs were not. And it was creating some confusion. So we're working through that right now. I'm pretty confident we'll have that done here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll put it back out there and test it again. But we do plan on making that adjustment so that the pull-in Gold Line trains will say that the end of that trip will be 8th and Capitol, and then they'll be transferring over. And then what was the second part of your question again? Oh, the sound. Yeah. So the sound is part of that amendment, Jeff. We do have the sounds you'll hear. We have both the location of the speaker of the ramp operation being moved to a 3-foot level above the top of rail. And that will allow the sound to be heard outside the vehicle easier, because right now it sits fairly high in the door portal. That is part of that change. But again, as I was stating before, with the ramp changes that we're making with the software, there will be an audio alert notifying you that you've requested that ramp. And then as the ramp opens, you'll hear a separate tone notifying you that the ramp is deploying, similar to what you hear now. But it gives the operator an audio as well to let them know that there's been a request.
Other members of the public in the room? Hearing none. Any members of the public on Zoom on this topic?
Order. Hey, Jeff, it's Rick Hotchkins. I also have.
Hang on, Rick. Hang on.
Sorry,
Did you say
sorry.
your question had still not been answered? Are you Jeff? I'm
Sorry.
addressing you. No, hang on, Rick. Just one moment. Were you saying your question had not been answered, Rick? I mean, Jeff. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. All right, Rick. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Order. Yeah, I apologize as well. So, George, when I rode the new trains starting last year, I noticed that the same voice that did the announcements on the CAF cars when they were being rolled out back in 2003 is the same voice that's making the announcements on the newer F700s. I was told by somebody that it would be a different voice making announcements of the station stops. Furthermore, as far as the ramp is concerned, I neither had an issue with the ramp nor stepping up onto the train. That doesn't mean other people have not had that issue, but I'm glad that the platform is going to be raised some more to pretty soon curtail the need for the ramp, because just like with the BART train in the Bay Area, and just like with the Muni trains, the Muni Metro Underground, and even with the streetcars in some areas, that there won't be a need for a ramp. People can just step aboard without having to step up. And then I understand announcements were talked about in stations instead of just advertising and safety information. What about not every person who's blind carries a smartphone. So for those of us who don't carry smartphones, I carry one. Most of us carry one. But for those who carry an old-fashioned flip phone, will there be announcements saying in the station when the next train is coming? And then my final question about the F700s is, I know that one thing I've asked for is, I'm a client of Alta California Regional Center, and it has been very hard to find a Connect card machine in the light rail stations. They're not, either they don't work, they're not the machines I'm used to using, because the homeless damage those machines and they're much newer. And when Alta, I prefer for Alta clients, we stay with the Connect card and have additional Connect card machines put up on the new light rail trains. If that's not an option, the issue I see with with the contactless fare method using your cell phone is, what if there's a homeless person behind you or in front of you and you have a disability and they snatch your cell phone out of your hand, even though you're using it to pay your fare and or verify your pass. So those are my questions about like I said, I've had no trouble with the cars themselves, just with trying to verify my Connect card and that type of thing. We need a system
Thank you, Rick.
identical.
Oh, sorry. Don't. Go ahead, finish up. I
Oh,
thought you were
we need a system where people can verify their passes on the trains as well as on the buses. Like I said, with the contactless fare system, I worry about, my phone being snatched if we're going to go to that. Now, what about for clients with Alta California Regional Center who will have a card that is prepaid? Is that going to change? Because we need to be very careful for clients like myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let Jamie answer the part about the Connect card, but real quick, I can answer so yes, the voice that you hear on most of the announcements is the same voice that was used in when the CAF cars were onboarded years ago. Now, obviously, we've had some changes made since that time where additional stations have been added as we've extended our service. So additional voice recordings were made for those stations to be added to that. One of the things that we are dealing with internally is as we have future stations being brought in, is having additional announcements being added, and we want to maintain some consistency in the voice and tone of the announcements. And so we're looking at the probability that we're going to need to re-record our station announcements to keep them consistent. And so that's something that we've begun looking into exploring how to do that, whether we do that through AI and software or whether we do it as we've done it traditionally in a studio with professional recording to get that consistency there. There are other departments that'll be involved in helping that happen, but yes, you'll probably hear some changes in the next year or two because we do have some additional stations that are coming that we will be adding, and we want to make sure that we keep that noise level and sound levels consistent so that it's familiar for everyone. And then I'm glad to hear that you haven't had issues with the trains, the ramps, obviously we've taken a lot of feedback from the MAC committee and others to try to make these changes to make the cars more friendly for folks that use them. And we do appreciate your input on those. But I'll let Jamie answer the question about the tap cards.
Hey, Rick, thanks for asking. Just to reassure everyone, well, we're currently getting ready to launch some additional information, and it'll be in a number of phases, at least 3 phases for our touchless payment or our contactless payment. At some point, we will phase out the Connect cards, but we will likely have a smart card version. So for those folks that either choose not to go the contactless route, that may prefer the tap option, there will be a smart card based, and that should be towards the end. And we'll have more information. And Rick, as we spoke last board meeting, I definitely will keep you in contact of those phases as they move forward.
Okay, thank you. Other members of the public in Zoom? I mean, on Zoom. Any hands,
No
Austin?
hands. No.
Okay, so we will now go. Thank you very much, George and others, for that update. We'll now go to the next item, which is the ADA Effective Communications draft, which is up for a vote. I'll turn it over to Priscilla in a second because you all have seen it. But Jean did send out a request today for a couple changes, only one of which is actually substantive. But I'll let that be addressed by Priscilla, and then we'll open it to the floor for discussion and vote.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, as Jeff had said, this information was sent to all the MAC members, and we've talked about it in a couple of meetings. I did get some very minor edits from Jean Lozano earlier today, and I've had the opportunity to go over those edits, and as Jeff mentioned, they are minor, not very substantial, so I think we're in a good place. I also had our legal staff take a look at the final based on those additional edits from Jean this morning. So at this point, what I wanted to do, we have a hard copy of the draft policy in the back of the room. We have the ability, if you need me to read through this, I don't know if that's necessary at this point.
Let me just mention Gene's one substantive change
ahead.
for those who may not have read it today. He asked to change the time in which a request needs to be submitted from 72 hours to 3 business days. And similarly, the time for which an answer needs to be given would change from 48 hours to 2 business days. And that's really the only substantive change that he was seeking to make.
Thanks, Jeff. And that is true, which I think those are good edits. I like them. And so, again, they can be incorporated based on those recommendations. One thing that was also suggested by him is just the changing of, I think, the wording of information as it's spelled out for speech, hearing, vision, cognitive, mobility, or other in the second paragraph of this document. And lastly, since we're here, I'm just trying to find where it was. There was some information about Jean had expanded upon public meetings. It's under the point number 1 on the first page, the bottom of the page. Which starts out with 4 public meetings, and he was including in-person, hybrid, and virtual. I don't think we need to be that specific. It's not it's fine if it's there. It's fine if it's not there. A public meeting is a public meeting.
Yeah,
So
that's why I didn't really mention it, because it
I think it's fine just the way it was,
Yeah.
actually. So, thank you, Jeff. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Jeff.
Okay, are you requesting approval from us? We don't really.
No, you're an advisory.
Okay, we're just advising. So
Yeah.
does anyone open to the floor now for discussion of any need for further edits? Anyone in the room first? MAC members? Anybody on Zoom? MAC members?
No.
Okay, anybody members of the public in the room? And it will certainly be published, so all can see this. Anybody on Zoom?
No.
All right, then we have, I believe, finished with this item.
Yeah, the next step, and I've mentioned this already, is that this notice will be presented for the board approval, the SAC-RT board approval. So that will take place, I'm not exactly sure when, but it'll be sometime this summer.
Okay, Charles, you have a question?
Yes, Priscilla, will the comments or will Jean's edits that we talked about be included in what's presented to the board?
Yes, the ones that Jeff had mentioned, not necessarily the ones that are about public meetings, because I think that's
Right,
due.
but the other one.
Yes, yes.
I don't see any reason. I mean, I don't think it hurts to have the other edited. I don't really, I mean, public meeting would definitely include all those anyway. So whatever, but whatever.
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
Margie,
Yes, Margie.
I was a little in my hand. Just a point of clarification. I don't think I've read that document, but who knows? I forget a lot. So if I want Braille for things, am I going to have to request each time, or will there be a list of people who wants Braille, who wants large print, for like meeting announcements? And I ask that because often meeting announcements, not the MAC, but other public meeting announcements come out very close to the meeting. So I'm kind of curious how that will move forward in terms of different formats that we're requesting.
Let me just respond to your question, Margie. It's a good
Thank
one.
you.
And you should have received the information in your brailled packet, because we
Mhm.
made sure to have it as part of the agenda packet. So if you can't seem to find it, we can try and get it to you again, but it would have been in your braille packet.
No, I have it. I have it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's why the packet was so fat.
And it's only 2 pages, but we'll certainly keep a list as we get requests, Margie, so that folks don't have to request every single time. If we have a record, especially for ongoing meetings and such, we'll capture that information and send it in that format to them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments by either MAC members or members of the public before we leave this item? Okay, we'll now go on to, and Patricia, when we get to members of the public, I will recognize you first because I know this is the item you want to talk about. SAC-RT Go. So I don't know who's presenting on that, but go right ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Alberta DeAnda, SAC-RT Go Superintendent. I'm going to be reporting the third quarter report. For January of 2025, the ridership for SAC-RT Go was 24,326. UServe's ridership was 8,158, and the total ridership was 32,484. For February, it was 22,568 for SAC-RT Go, 7,161 for UServe, for a total combined 29,729. For March was 25,008. UServe was 7,779 for total ridership of 32,787. The on-time performance for January 25 for SAC-RT Go was 77%. SAC-RT Go supplemental service for UServe was 99% for total combined OTP of 82%. In February of 2025, it was 76% for SAC-RT Go, 99% for UServe, for a total combined of 82%. March of 25, 74% for Go, 99% for UServe, and 80% combined. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other updates on current progress, especially due to the new software and as well as the app that's in the process of being tested, but primarily on the new software?
Yes, we do. This is Charity, the Director
Okay.
of Bus Operations.
Go right ahead.
So I have a quick update. We'll have a full update for the MAC members for a post-launch in July's MAC meeting. But I do have a quick status and progress on some hot topic items. One of the things that was brought up was, and actually Helen actually helped bring light to this concern, was Google Map directions. Operators were getting, when they use Google Maps, was getting the incorrect location to particularly like Helen's address. We worked with QRide to identify the problem, and we have a fix in place right now. And then we have a workaround, I'm sorry. And then we'll have a fix released by the end of next week that will get pushed out to the driver's tablets. So we won't have that issue anymore. Another concern that was brought up and that we have addressed was passengers were being asked to pay fare when they had a valid pass. We worked with QRide to make sure that all valid passes were available to each passenger's profile, and that we made the payment type mandatory. So when reservations are booking your trips, they have to select a payment type in order to save the trip. So that's been resolved. There was a couple of concerns about operators being not able to see enough trips in order to plan their bus accordingly when they have shared rides. So we have increased the amount of trips that drivers are able to see, so that they can plan accordingly when unloading and loading passengers and using mobility devices. Another thing that was brought up was operators taking a long time to get through to dispatch. We've been working closely with the dispatch team, management has, and prioritizing tasks and ensuring that we're answering operators' calls in a timely manner. And then we have not received any recent complaints from operators regarding this. I know the big hot topic is the Sacramento app, so I do have an update on that. We've been working closely with QRide on testing the features and ensuring that the app aligns with our standard operating procedures. We're very close to the finish line with the app, and we have right now the app accessibility being tested by a third-party consultant. We should have those results early July. I also wanted to share that at last MAC meeting, there was some concerns brought up with UServe regarding complaints. We've been addressing those complaints with UServe. UServe actually ended up launching a campaign for door-to-door service last month, which we actually saw a decrease in complaints regarding that. And they are working in the next couple of days to launch another safety campaign to address like some of the concerns about cell phone usage and signage for the user vehicles. Like I said, those are the quick updates that I have. We'll have a full post-launch update in July, but I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, so I'm going to start, and I'm sure that let's all try to be concise, and first me, because I know a lot of people are going to want to comment. I guess my comments will be around UServe, although not exclusively so. Setting aside the glitch that we've long had, we had it for a while and then it went away, and then we had it again with the PCA part of the coupon not working. It looked as if the coupons and maybe the pass as well were starting to work on UServe. And, you know, when you could pay your $5 and the coupon would work and the ride would go. But then now I'm seeing a lot more zero payments. But in addition to that, I'm seeing a lot more use of van rides for ambulatory people. Still, I am seeing some $0, which is good because if it truly hasn't been resolved yet, the ride can't start, and that's why they instituted the $0. So it's a lot of inconsistency, and I'm not quite sure what's happening. I am seeing a lot more rides on vans, on RTGO buses for ambulatory people, which of course, I don't have specific data, but it makes makes the whole system harder for everyone to get their rides on time because you have more shared rides and it has that total effect. So I guess those are some of my comments. I'm glad to see that the address issue is fixed because I am still hearing comments about people going to the wrong address and having to phone in and find out where their van is or whatever. So I do hope that is going to be fixed. I don't want to get too much ahead of ourselves, so I'll let anybody want to comment on some of what I have said, and then we'll go around to Charlie and we'll go in the room first.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So one thing that I do want to bring up is that not all ambulatory riders are able to use UServe as an option. But I want to assure you that we have as many riders as we can send to UServe. We do within our contract guidelines with the CBA. But as many riders as we can send to UServe to help keep our on-time performance and keep our trips moving, we try to send to UServe. So if you see ambulatory riders on the bus, it may be because there may be other underlining things that prevent them from going to UServe.
I'm talking about in the time period since the rollout. There is definitely more use of ambulatory riders, from my experience, on vans in the past month or so.
Yeah, okay.
And I suspect the data will show that. Whether it's related to the problems with the UServe platform not syncing with QRide or not, I don't know. I can't, I don't have any kind of data I'm just telling you what I have observed.
Hi, Jeff. This is Blanca, VP Bus Operations. We did see a drop at the beginning when we took over. When we transitioned to QRide, we did notice a drop in the ridership that was sent to UServe, and we went ahead and dealt with it right away because of what you said, right? We were trying to make sure that we can stay within the service and good service on time and all that. And we knew that all these extra trips going into the bus, Sacramento was going to make things worse. So we checked into that right away. We did start asking UServe to let us know as soon as because there's pretty much a constant number that gets sent out to them. And we did ask them to let us know if they saw a drop, because even we found out because they were inquiring about it. They said, hey, we're noticing less trips. Is there something going on at the beginning? And that's what prompted us to look. So we did look, and we did set an agreement with them to make sure that they let us know if they saw those numbers drop so we can make sure to see what was going on. We have not heard that, but not saying that it's not happening. So we will follow up with UServe to ensure that we're continuing to be constant with the numbers that we're sending, that we could send over with those rights that we can send over to UServe to make sure that we're controlling the service and the load on Sacramento. So we can definitely continue to check on that, because it did happen at the beginning, and we don't want to look away, right? And the next it's happening again. So we'll make sure to stay on top of that and make that part of our UServe topics and reports that when we meet with them.
Okay, thank you. Charles.
Okay, just to follow up on the ridership in UServe, are you still filling up or getting close to your total percentage rides on UServe, or has that
That's the goal. The goal is to send as close as we can to the 32% allowable that we have within the contract right now. That's our number, right? 32%.
Yes, that's the goal.
That's the goal. So every day
Right.
we try to, yes, so that continues to be our goal.
So I guess one way to get to Jeff's question then is the percentage of, what is 32%?
32%.
That you had before the switch to Q-Ride and after the switch to Q-Ride. Did you see a drop in that percentage?
So we saw a drop when they started calling us on the daily ride. That's how we found out. They started letting us know that they were noticing on their daily trips list that they were getting less. And they were getting approximately maybe about 50, 60 trips less than what they were used to, and that raised the flag for us. And that's when we started looking. And we started looking at averages because we know that we were already practicing to send everything. So we know, like she said, that not everybody can go, but we had a good eye on the numbers that usually average, and which I think were like, I don't want to give you concrete numbers, but they're like 300 and so trips, right? That we usually see. So those are the numbers that we share with UServe and said, you guys need to make sure that we're sending you about this number. If you see a drop, you need to let us know right away so we can ensure and check back to see what was happening.
So in the last 2 or 3 weeks, are you noticing?
I haven't gotten a notice, and we meet with UServe we've been meeting with them since Q-Ride start every week, and they have not said anything to us, but I want to make sure that that's not because we're not asking, or, I would just want to make sure that we do everything to make sure that that's what's happening, and the silence doesn't mean something else. So we will go ahead and double check that that's what's happening.
Thank you. I have several questions and comments here. One has to do with the observation that if you look in March, and I'm speaking only of RT Go right now. If you take a look at the total rides on Go and the on-time performance, and then you do a little arithmetic, what that means is that in March, there was an average of 210 rides per day that were late. Okay. So that'll be a theme throughout what I have to say. So taking a look at the switch over, I've sort of divided things up into 2 categories. One is operational, and then the other is performance. Now, pretty much everything in operational has an effect on the performance. Occasionally drivers are getting wrong addresses, and sometimes the manifest does not include the zip code, and I've gotten this information from drivers. Driver manifests need to include the address and zip code and description of the destination on the driver's tablets. A lot of drivers have complained to me that they're giving an address but not a description of the destination, and that's caused a lot of frustration on the part of drivers. And so anyway, that's one comment that I've gotten back, and sometimes they have to hunt around for the right building. And it's hard to see the address, but some of them have done this so long they see this address, they know what building to go to. So that's one thing I've run across. The second issue is drivers' tablets going dark for a variety of reasons, as far as I can tell. That is, again, a frustration on the part of the driver, and it's also time consuming. And so that cuts out a lot of time. And I know I've raised the topic about the tablets going dark several weeks ago. Yes, Charity.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped over that part on my update, but yes, that was one of the things that you had brought up before, Charles. The tablets going blank or dark. It's mostly, the reports we've gotten, it was mostly from passengers or like yourself, but we're working closely with the operators. So when those incidences do happen, that we can have like an actual time date that they're supposed to call into dispatch and report it so that we can try to figure out if it's a tablet issue or if it's a software problem. We did put out a campaign for operators to make notes for if there's any issues that they're having with their tablet while en route. They have sheets that they can turn in and that we've been reviewing and providing feedback to QRide if it's a software issue. A lot of the feedback we're getting is the safe drive mode, which goes it goes blurry,
Right.
not black, doesn't black the screen out, but operators are asking for that to get removed. But that's a feature for safe driving mode. But we're trying to identify specifically for like the
And,
screen going black.
that is a continuing problem, so. Okay, going on, and you did address the order of the pickups and drop-offs by giving drivers additional information. And from just my own anecdotal observations, I've seen that getting better. I don't have any data to report on that, but I think in general that seems to be getting a little better. One thing that I have run across is drivers are having to make repeated requests to change the order of either pickups or drop-offs because sometimes they'll find that they're driving right past a place that they need to pick up to go drop somebody else off and then come back, or vice versa. And so just on the radio, I can hear on each trip 2 or 3 times a driver asking, can I change this, the order of things that I have here? And that seems to be happening a lot. And again, it's rather frustrating to the driver and sometimes to the passengers too. So that is a problem where, whatever is the order of pickups and drop-offs is an issue. And it's costing time. And there's several other things in the operational issues, but I'll skip over those, and I want to go to performance. And I think one of the biggest things is the on-time performance that we've had. And that was one of the reasons I brought up that 210 passengers per day in March, and that was before the flip over to QRide. So Alberto, could you flip that page for me? Okay, I have a suggestion, probably more of a request, and this has to do with trying to get some data on the late rides. And so my request is that beginning in the April 1 report, that for us, that you provide weekly reports on the late arrivals and as follows. For each week, I would like to see the median time that they're late, the mean time, and then 2 standard deviations from the mean on the time of late. So in other words, if a bus is, 31 minutes past the time, that means that it's late. I don't know if you're logging that as late or not, but I assume you are. And if it's 4 hours late, I assume you're logging that as late.
Yes.
So we can't tell whether it's, more people are getting picked up towards the 4-end mark as opposed to the 1-minute mark. And so that's the reason for asking for this data analysis, because that will, it's a lot of rides. And so this is one way to give everybody a sense of, okay, QRide started off with things being closer to an hour and a half late. And as time goes on, we can see through this data analysis that things are getting closer and closer to the 1-minute mark. And so at least for the first quarter of QRide, I would like to see that analysis. I know that it's a lot of extra work, but I think it would give everybody a good sense as to how things are getting better. And my anecdotal experience is that things do seem to be getting better. but I think if you could break that out and present it, that would be really good. And I have a couple of ideas as to how to present that data so that you can, in a fairly quick glance, you can see how things are going. So if you want to talk to me about it, I'll be glad to give you that information.
Thank you.
Right.
Well,
And then the final question I have that I hope you can address now is that approximately 2 weeks ago, drivers were asked to fill out a survey on their reactions to the Q ride. And I hope you can say something about what the results of that survey was from the drivers.
So that's what I was referring to when I said the campaign for the drivers regarding the tablet and
That's what I thought
feedback.
you were.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the, and Alberta, I don't know if you have any additional information, but I know a lot of the feedback we were getting had to do with the safe drive mode, and that when they do stop, it takes about 15 to 20 seconds for the screen to reactivate. And they were just asking, can we just get rid of the safe drive mode? That was I could tell you that was probably the number one topic. But was there any other type of? It was mostly the safe drive mode that operators were
More
reporting.
consistently, that was to see that we had a lot of feedback that said it was getting better. And that was good to see.
That's my sense of the way things are going too. But you don't have any more details on what the drivers responded to. It was pretty much just the tablets going dark.
Yes, right now. We'll look at the data and we can follow up and provide more if there's any thing else that was.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Doris,
Yes,
anything on this item?
yes. Actually, there's one of them that I noticed that the changes, because I moved and then came back to Sacramento. But just a couple of months ago, it used to be another share ride. It was 2 other people usually, but now there's 4. And that's been less than a year, correct? Because there used to be 2 people share ride. They were considered 2 share rides.
It always was that way. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4.
This is a shared ride service.
Yeah.
Forever.
Doesn't have a number on the limitation.
I saw one when I was there, it was 5. And so that's why I'm trying to.
It hasn't changed in terms of what it could be. That's correct.
Share ride is just share ride. You could have 5, you could have 3, you could have 2. Yeah, it's not a set number.
So I'm not sure then when we book a ride, for example, will you know how many people, or, I mean, they normally, depending on the morning, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
No, you're not going to know until you know. You're not.
Right, what are you getting at, Doris? That you're going to be on the vehicle really long?
Understanding, yeah, I'm kind of understanding what the difference is. So it's if somebody's doing it, let's say 2 days from that, ahead of time when you're going. So let's say I'm going to do it at 6 in the morning. And I want to be there by 9 o'clock. So you're hoping you'll do that ride. And so they tell you the time and all that. And then you get there like an hour later. So that's the option. So I'm not sure what to understand is, should we do more than that, or how do we know?
So when you're planning your trip, you want to give yourself enough time and opportunity, because it is a shared ride service. But the reservations do a good job at that, as well as negotiating trips and letting you know what time that we have availability to pick you up. The thing is that it may be a shared ride, although the software still puts in place that we still try to get you to your destination on time. That's the goal, especially if you have a drop off time. So if there's any issues with that, then let us know. We can investigate them individually.
Okay.
But the whole program should be taking into account of all of that when grouping shared rides.
And then we can find out general information to get that information. There was a bad day, there was so many people that were late, or no, they were wonderful, they were great. I mean, is that kind of the information that you could provide?
How would you want that? How would you want that provided when you say daily?
Not daily, it could be a monthly or whatever.
Yeah, that's
just to have-
monthly works well because
an
we
idea.
we have a standing item on our agenda for MAC about the SAC-RT Go launch that will be presenting information starting in July. And it also gets at what Charles was asking, because I think weekly it's going to be, I mean, difficult for us to, how are we providing that information? Who are we providing it to? Typically it would be, we can do that on a monthly basis.
Okay.
As it relates to how many trips are a certain amount late. I mean, we do get that information. We're tracking that. We have all that kind of information, but how is that going to be, how are you going to want that? We might want to talk offline about that because
Okay.
I mean, MAC meets monthly, but all of what you're asking, we don't, how often is it going to be that you're looking for? Monthly is ideal for us because we meet monthly.
Yeah.
But
You'll learn more in the next few meetings, Doris, as to how this data is
Yeah.
received, and you can decide whether you feel it's enough or whatever. Yeah, you will.
And then the last thing is, when we do a ride, for example, all they have to do is the address pretty much. Whereas before, they actually, like, if there was a number, like this particular address, but with this number, the room number, whatever, and so you no longer have to do it anymore. So do we know how to do it? Because like, for example, if you go to a medical building, it's one number, but it's like different rooms on each area. So I'm trying to understand if that's not information needed anymore compared to.
It is. When you're scheduling your ride, you should have the address. And then if there's a suite number or a building number, or even an identifier as Walmart, we'll just use Walmart
Yes,
as a parking
for
lot.
example.
Anything that we can put in the, so the suite number and everything, that's part of the address, that should be included. And then if there's a building name, or something that we can put in the driver's notes as well, so that the operators have an idea of what they're looking for when they go.
Because every time when I ask, do you want the suite number? No, I don't need that.
So it may be on your, I'll check what the reservation is, but it may be on your, saved under kind of like your favorites, or not your favorites, but your, frequent.
Profile.
Yeah, the
Frequent rides. So if it's something you go somewhere often, it may already be there, but we should still be making sure that we have that information and confirming.
And just to note, it's not where you'd be going through the door to get to a suite, correct?
Suite number, like.
Just a suite number, but your expectation isn't that you're going to get dropped off through the door.
No.
Because we
so
just
like-
go to the door.
Like at the medical center, they're all in one story.
Right.
So it goes to different suites, but it's all considered one address.
But you're going to the door.
No,
We're getting
they-
you to the door. The driver's getting you to the door, not through the door to the suite.
No, there's actually different rooms. It's not together, so it's different
But from
doors.
outside
There's
to
different doors.
Outside, and there's a door, and then you drop it
No.
off right there.
No, they're different.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
like.
understanding.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doris. MAC members on Zoom.
Helen?
Helen, go ahead.
Sorry. I have a praise report. The testing form that I have of the new RT Go app is immensely improved. It provides your estimated time of arrival. It gives you a map that actually tells you exactly where your bus is, so that you can usually figure out how long it's going to take to get there. It gives you the driver's name and the bus number, which is very, very helpful. I personally don't use it to make rides because I get frustrated putting things into computers. I was wondering, is there an approximate date for it to go completely live? on the phone apps and on the computer?
So we're still working on that. Like I mentioned in my update, we have a third-party consultant that is doing the accessibility part of the app. Before we launch it and say the app's complete, we want to make sure that it's usable for everybody. So we should get a report back early July, and then I'm assuming it won't take that much longer to be able to publish the app. But I don't have a set date yet. I could just tell you right now we have the report getting back from the consultant in early July.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have is the person that just spoke, it makes a good point. Sometimes if you tell the reservationist, I need to be here at such and such a time, the computer gives them maybe 45 minutes before their arrival time to be picked up. That doesn't work. I'm speaking from experience. For example, if I have a 4 o'clock arrival time, the computer says that I will be picked up at 3:15. That doesn't work because you have a half-hour window and then 15 minutes to get to somewhere. That won't work. And it's pretty consistent. The computer only gives you, like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. If I tell them I want to be picked up at a certain time, I always leave at least an hour and a half before I actually need to be somewhere. So, for example, I tell the reservationist I would like to be picked up at 4 o'clock. And I actually don't need to be at the actual destination until 6 o'clock. Usually I get there at 5:30. So that's the way I deal with not being late. A lot of people don't do those calculations. I also take into account when I make a reservation what time of day it is and which direction it's going or how far I'm going. That's just a timing issue that I thought might be helpful for other people to know how I accommodate the changing of delivery times because the computer is way too short. Another thing with the share rights, I have been informed that the Q Ride program is programmed to put as many share rides on one bus as possible. Sounds good in theory, lowers the cost of each trip. But if you're going, I had this happen to me and it was addressed by the dispatcher very quickly so that it didn't become an issue. But they did have to reconfigure the ride. I was being picked up at my address on Broadway, and Broadway and 34th, 35th, and going to East Stockton Boulevard. When I was boarded, the bus driver was extremely concerned, and she said, you have a share ride. And I said, well, I have an hour and a half to get there. And she says, yeah, well, I don't think that's going to work. And I said, why? Where are we going to pick up the next passenger? Now, my destination is on East Stockton Boulevard, very close to Elk Grove. The driver was told to go to Watt Avenue at 3:30 in the afternoon, pick up somebody, drop them off, and then take me to East Stockton Boulevard. Now, I allotted an hour and a half for my trip. When when she told me that that's where the bus told her to go, I called dispatch and I inquired, if we are at this location and you're expecting us to go to Watt Avenue on the freeway at this time of day, what time is my estimated time of arrival?
Helen, we have other MAC members to get to. Is there
Okay.
a question you want to ask?
Yeah. They need to not make the rides go from one side of town to the other when the rides could be more localized. So I would like to see that addressed.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other MAC members in Zoom? Have
Gene?
comments? All right, Gene?
Second.
Hi, this is Gene. I've been hanging on for a while.
We got you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I have, and I'm not going to get into any stories, but I have the experience when making the reservations through the calling in is when I give a time, it's 4:00. I tell them that I want to arrive at 3:45 p.m. But then the computer gives me not the 45-minute window, it gives me an hour and 15 minutes. So actually I end up being 90 minutes. So I don't know. I have a different experience in Helen, and it has worked for me. I've had shared rides. It's a few times was almost didn't make a meeting, but the thing is, my ride worked out, and I assume this is really off topic, but I'm finding still that rides to the county administration building downtown, 708 Street, that the U-Serve drivers GPS doesn't seem to have the ability to get you there. I've actually had to tell them how to get to the building, and also they've called me trying to find me to pick me up, and I've had to talk them through to get the GPS and different people, and I very much appreciate that they're very receptive to accepting assistance. So thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Any other Zoom MAC members? Okay, hearing none, I'll recognize Patricia first for public comment.
Thank you. I am Patricia Nielsen. I'm a long-term regular rider of Sac RT Go. I appreciate the service.
Patricia just wants to, our time is limited, just to tell the rest of you. We have a 4:30 end, so I want everyone to know that. So thank you. Go ahead. Sorry, Patricia.
I will try to be very quick. I appreciate the service. I'm very happy that I have it, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I do have some issues, which I hope if you're aware of, maybe you can make some improvements. The first one is I think management staff should be available whenever buses are in operation. And in my experience, that has not been the case. Anytime after business hours, when I've had a problem getting a ride and I ask to talk to a manager, I get transferred to a voicemail that says they'll call me back in a few days. Well, when I'm sitting on a corner on a Saturday afternoon, I'm sitting on a street corner having trouble getting a ride, getting a call back in a few days doesn't help me. So management staff needs to be available whenever buses are in operation, and dispatch people need to know how to access those management people or give the customer access to the management person so that problems can be addressed when they arrive. That's my first issue. The second issue is when drivers go home sick, dispatch people need to be trained in how to properly reroute the passengers who were scheduled to ride with the driver who went home sick. I have waited hours and hours for rides when dispatch people are trying to call to get another driver and they refuse to transfer me to a different bus. They say I have to wait until they find another driver for the bus I was supposed to be on. And I don't know what the official procedure is, but whatever it is, the dispatch people need to be trained that if they can't find a new driver, they need to transfer the passenger to a different bus. They can't just leave them sitting on a street corner for hours and hours. The third issue is air conditioning. When it's over 100 degrees, if a bus doesn't have air conditioning, it should be parked as non-operational. And also, drivers, this is incredible, drivers should be trained on how to turn the air conditioning on. And I will tell you my experience on May 30 on my ride going home from the doctor's office. It was 103 out and there was hot air blowing right over my head. And I said to the driver, can you please change the temperature? There's hot air blowing on me. And he turned the fan up so it was blowing harder. But he didn't change the temperature. And I said, it keeps blowing harder. I don't need more air, I need cooler air. It's hot, you're blowing heat on me. It's 103 out, I don't need heat, I need air conditioning. He kept turning the fan up, and then when he said, okay, the fan is on full blast, that's all I can do. He said, there's nothing here to change the temperature. The only thing I can do is turn the fan up and down. I'm sure that's not true. You don't have buses that you can't change between heat and air conditioning. So he finally just turned it off, and by the time I got home, I was sick from sitting in, I don't know how hot it was in the bus. It was 103 outside, and heat makes me sick. So that's an issue. And the last thing I want to talk about is what other people here have been talking about, and that is the sequence of shared rides and on-time statistics. And I live right off Highway 50, 3 doors down from Bradshaw Road. And what has become a very common occurrence for me on shared rides is they pick me up, they drive me all over Rancho Cordova, maybe half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. Then on the way back to take me where I need to be downtown, they go right by my house. On May 28, after driving me around Rancho Cordova and down to Elk Grove for 45 minutes, they went within 100 feet of my house. And I said, there's my house right there. Why don't you pick me up now instead of making me ride on this bus an extra 45 minutes? I have a broken back. There is nothing I can do to my back that's more painful than to get onto a paratransit bus. And as much as I appreciate your rides, I have to say, you don't have good suspension systems. Every bump, every stop and go, every turn hurts me. So I'm enduring an extra 45 minutes of pain. Then they go within 100 feet of my house, and I'm still not anywhere near where I need to be. And so I called on that day, I called the dispatch, and I said, why do you do this? And they said, if we did the 45 minutes of driving around first before we picked you up, we'd be late. That's not good for our statistics. If we pick you up first and drive you around with us, we can show that we picked you up on time. Well, congratulations, you picked me up on time. You caused me a lot of unnecessary pain by an extra 45 minutes bouncing around Rancho Cordova. And when I got to the doctor's office, the doctor wouldn't see me because I was late. So you get credit for picking me up on time, and there's nothing there to show how much extra pain you cost me or the fact that you got me to the doctor's office late and I had to reschedule.
Thank you very, very much, Patricia, for those
Well-
cogent comments.
Please allow me to comment just one more thing. I think
Very quickly, because we do have other members of the public.
priority should be given to what's the most efficient rideshare sequence instead of statistics. Statistics should come second. The other thing is, if you want a meaningful statistic, you should look at, did you get the patient where they need to be on time? That's the one that counts. What time you pick me up doesn't make any difference if I miss the doctor's appointment.
Thank you very much. Okay, other members in the room of the public. Leslie, go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk to you again. Is it Alberta? Is that the name?
Yes.
Right, because I just thought I really would like to know about the zero copay. Are we supposed to be paying it or are we not? When it comes to the USERV, is it still that way or not? And the other thing with the bus situation is, just last week, I just thought of one, they sent 3 buses for 3 of us who were all going within a few blocks of each other. And I called dispatch and they said, well, yeah, it appears that's the way it is. And I said, well, isn't this very, it's not logical? I mean, but that's what the computer did. Well, I don't care about the computer. Where's the real time? So anyway, I had to talk to you about that.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. I just had a question. So when you're referring to the copay, are you talking about for PCAs?
No, for any regular user of rides. They're still mostly doing zero co-payments. Not all of them.
Okay.
Yes, I got zero for a couple tomorrow, actually. So yeah, that's true. Do you have a comment on that?
Okay, so I'll double check with USERV, but I just want to, when you're paying, are you paying with a pass or how?
It doesn't matter because they let us know before we get the ride.
I understand. Yeah. Let me look into it some more.
Okay. I'm assuming they're still doing it zero copay because they're worried about the ride not starting. That's what we assume, but we don't know. We don't know. Okay, Jeff Tardigui is next.
My comment is we're going to be into 100-degree temperature. And also you're going to be having the state fair coming up before we meet again for the MAC. Both of those are occurrences where a lot of disability people go, and just want to give you a heads up so that you accommodate that.
Thank you, Jeff. On Zoom. Any raised hands on Zoom?
Yes.
Margie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Margie?
thank you. I'm going to make this as quickly as possible. I want to address the issue with user and when the system first switched over to Q-Ride, I had no user rides. When Blanca looked into it, there was 2 things that did not transfer over, and I can't remember the first one, but the second one was it said I didn't have SMS text messaging. And so Blanca had to fix that. So if there's more people getting on the bus, they need to be filing complaints so this could be looked into. And so that addresses that. I want to validate the time issue before I started getting user. I give myself an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes to get from my house to Music Circus or Broadway. And when I gave them the arrival time, I was given an hour and 15 minutes and I asked them to make it longer. So there's a timing issue. The most obvious is dispatch has to work harder and play a key role in all of this. And then I want to talk about the buses. In the heat, the air conditioning does not work. It is not they're turning on the heater. I am severely affected by heat with my brain injury. I'm not going to get into personal issues, but it's awful. I try to stay home in the afternoons if I don't have a medical appointment. Even last night, being picked up to go to my meeting, Lori's air conditioning wasn't working. And when she checked out and did her pre-trip, it worked. So the hotter we get, the less the air conditioning gets. And that's unfortunately buses that have been purchased or they're not going in for more Freon. But for some of this, as the First Lady said, it is a medical condition. It is a crisis, and it can send me into a very serious crisis. And then my last comment, I really want to acknowledge Blanca and Charity and Jamie. We've worked together to resolve most things in Folsom. I had a ride from hell, and Blanca was on the phone with me, and Jamie is on the phone with Userve. And just acknowledge the hard work that they are trying their best to resolve all these issues. And it does take a little bit of patience. And the most effective way to get responses is write them up or call customer service and verbally give your complaint. Don't wait to the MAC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie, very much. Any other comments on Zoom?
Yes, Rick Hodgkins.
Oh, hold on. You got to raise your hand.
I already did.
Okay. I didn't.
I don't think
Thank
anybody
you.
is seeing it.
Go
I
ahead.
don't think anybody's
didn't
seeing
see it.
my.
You're right. You are right on that one. I wasn't looking, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is like the second or third time nobody has seen it. But I will say this about Userve. I love Userve, except I understand that the vast majority, I have nothing against people from other countries, but I notice that the vast majority of drivers do not speak fluent English. So it is very, very difficult to communicate with them. One driver went over the speed limit. I remember I had 2 incidents last year that where one driver went over the speed limit on the freeway and was on his phone. I don't know if he was using Bluetooth or not. And then second, when it comes to being dropped off any place downtown, whether if it's to go to Broadway on Music Circus, if it's a bus, that's one thing. But if it's a user driver and they have to close the streets off for Fireman's Memorial, the driver doesn't know where to park. And some drivers are scared. Many user drivers are scared to death because they don't want to have their car towed, nor do they want to get a ticket. Furthermore, when it comes to ride shares, the ride shares only occur on buses, and everybody knows that the ride share only works if people are going to the same place and or the drop-offs are on the way on the way to each other. I had another situation last year where I was picked up. I was supposed to go to a place in South Sacramento to hear an audio described play, and I had to miss it because right after I was picked up by a Sac RT Go driver, we went to the Grand Oaks Bingo Hall here in Citrus Heights, and unfortunately, the person we were waiting for kept us waiting over 5 minutes, and as a result, I had to miss the play that Regina and her friends put on, and yeah. But whenever I use Userve, and the only complaint I have about Userve, other than drivers not speaking, not all the drivers speaking fluent English and not being able to communicate with them, is the way they treat. I know one senior citizen said last year that a driver told her, "Now you shut up and listen to me." I've never had that happen yet. And then the other thing
Rick, hang on for a second.
I'm sorry.
We've only got about 5 minutes left. If there are no other folks who want to, oops, you're off. Mike.
My hand is raised as well.
Okay. If we finish comments before 4:30 from others, I'll let you comment again, but I want to make sure everybody gets their chance. So I know Regina's hands is raised, so you're next.
Okay, quickly, there's a problem with the addresses in the GPS. I know it comes up for buses, perhaps for users too, but when they click on something like Gold Creek Lane, it turns it to Gold Creek Apartments. It's happening pretty consistently. It's turning something like Woodside Glen Way into Woodside Glen Apartments. So that is systemic. Also, there's another problem that I've been told that I'm listed as non-ambulatory, even though I tell them when I make the reservation that I'm ambulatory, that I'm blind, that we do have a service animal. It's a guide dog for the blind, but we're not mobility impaired. We do not need the lift and all of that. And it'll still be listed there for the driver. And I haven't been getting any users. And I think somehow it's, again, systemic, that something's happening and we're being miscategorized. Is that the right word? And that's happened to other people that are blind or low vision and ambulatory. And so I'm concerned that that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom with a comment? Okay, hearing none. Rick, you want to go ahead and finish since we do have a little time?
Yes. The other thing I want to mention is I had a, so after also the lack of respect of some drivers I've heard about. I have not had the lack of respect of drivers, but other people have, like being told to shut up by a driver to a senior citizen. The only complaint I have as of this year with USERV is I live in apartment 179 in the Arborell Apartments in Citrus Heights, and 170 in my apartment complex, 179 is not next door to 178. And if a driver gets lost, I hear this voice in my head telling me, well, you better go out and look for the driver. Why should I go out and look for the driver? The driver should come to my door. Why should I go out and look for them? So that's, and then of course, Tom, I know you mentioned that there were a lot of ambulatory people paying zero copay. It could be a PCA. Most of us don't need PCAs, including myself, but some people I know do. So
no,
that
Rick,
could
let
be
me give you the reason that the reason has been that if you have a copay of $5, the ride or whatever, the ride can't get started if the coupon you have or the pass you have doesn't work. So they decided for a while with the new rollout to make it a zero copayment so that the ride could get started and they wouldn't have to wait 20 or 30 minutes in your driveway to get permission to start the ride. That's the reason that has occurred, just so you know.
Okay, I thought there was and then again, what I said about the ride shares, and they only work if everyone's either going to the same place and or one drop off is on the way to the next drop off, and that drop off's on the way to and so forth and so on. So
okay,
thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. Do we have? Well, we're not going to get to your update, Helen. We can put that off, I think, unless you want to do it in 2 minutes. Which would you prefer to do?
No, it's okay. I can table it till next meeting.
Okay, we will do that then.
Thank you for asking.
We'll put it on first, and we'll make sure that it gets done right away, early in the agenda for
Thank
the
you.
August meeting, or July,
Margie.
I should say. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Jeff, it's Margie. Can I make a quick statement? Just really quick.
Yes,
I really think a lot of the problems we're hearing are
30 seconds,
systemic.
Margie, because we're
Yes,
on the
I got
4:30.
you. Are because of the software transfer and things didn't transfer properly, and someone needs to go through that manually and address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I agree with you.
I move that we adjourn.
I second. Helen?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Jeff. Great meeting.
Thank
And
you.
if you
My
want
first
to
time as a
talk to
guest.
staff member before you go, I encourage people to do that.
Melissa Backratch has left the meeting.